Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. Thank you all for joining. I'd like to welcome Magda to the show. Welcome, Magda.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, why don't we get started by having you tell the audience listening or watching who you are and what you do?
So, I am an intimacy expert, and what I do is I combine the teachings from the East, so Tantra and energy work and meditation, and I combine it with a more Western approach. I love psychology, so I bring in psychology and I bridge these two worlds for people so we can all have the most incredible intimate life. And by intimate life, I do mean more than just what happens in the bedroom. So it is really about helping everyone, also regardless of the relationship status, to really have that deep sense that I am alive, like have this connection to themselves, to other people, and to life. Like we are alive, but so often we just don't feel it. So I help people feel that they are alive. And of course, a lot of it happens in our intimate relationships. In the bedroom, absolutely. There is a big part of my work because I do recognize that human sexuality is something more complex. This is our creativity, our sense of aliveness. And so for me, it's all about just opening ourselves, how can we express our talents even more and even more. So this is what I do. This is, well, I would say so far my mission on this planet.
Awesome. I love that. All right. Well, we're going to dive right in because I think it's really important. I'm glad to be able to have you as a guest and to be able to do a show that does focus on really sort of helping to build, because I think like understanding yourself, feeling like you said alive, it gives us more confidence and it empowers us more because a lot of times, like you mentioned, when people think of like intimacy, they do immediately think about like what happens behind closed doors. And for a lot of women, that may not always feel like a space of confidence, right? Or empowerment. So I think that this is a really important conversation to share with the community. So one thing I want to start with is that you do talk about feminine superpowers. So let's talk about what does that mean and what do you consider feminine superpowers to be?
So thank you for this question. I want to quickly just go back to something that you said, that a lot of women don't feel confident in that area. And what's crazy is that this is actually the whole area of life where women should naturally thrive. And this actually links to our feminine superpowers. Um, so before I even list them, and I'm so happy to share them, I just want to give you a little kind of like a metaphor. So I don't know if you are into Marvel movies. I love
Yes.
superheroes.
Yes.
So take Thor.
Yes.
So Thor has his hammer. Now imagine he's going into the battle to save the world, and someone tells him, "Oh gosh, this hammer is so heavy. Just leave it behind because it's gonna slow you down." And now imagine that Thor actually believes that, right? That his hammer would be like his weakness. So he decides to leave it behind and go and fight.
Mhm.
And this is kind of what's happened to women. We were convinced that what is actually our superpower, that this is a burden and that's a weakness. And
Mhm.
so we rejected these parts of ourselves. And through doing so, we have actually weakened ourselves. And so for me, reclaiming those superpowers, a lot of it really comes down to not listening what society says,
Mhm.
because society is still hugely patriarchal. Depending on what country we are in, we're both in the West, so we could say, oh, it's much better. It is much better, but there are consequences, of living in a certain dynamic. So can I list the superpowers?
Yes.
So feminine, I feel like people often think of feminine in terms of gender roles, and that's quite unfortunate. Feminine, it's about a certain way of moving through life that is available to every woman. Even if you're like, a CEO, even if you're really busy, we can still embrace those superpowers. So the first power is intuition. And the way I like to think of intuition is this: without us, our species would die. Like that's the role of the females for all animals, right? Like we are essential for our species to survive. So it only makes sense for nature or God to equip us with some extra, let's say, gifts to make sure that we are fine, that we are strong, that we can survive. And I consider intuition to be that special gift from nature to make sure we are fine. Like we've all heard of female intuition. We don't hear about male intuition, female intuition. It does seem to be that women can access certain knowing, and it's not logical, right? It just comes to you, just know. I think a great example is when a woman is cheated on, we know. Like we don't have any proof. We can sense something is off. And even in cases when he denies, right? And later it turns out, oh my God, I was right. Because we had that feeling. We often have that feeling, but again, we don't listen to it because society has convinced us that this is like silly and you're brainwashed, or be more logical, right? Like we keep hearing that we shouldn't live intuitive lives. Like our lives should make logical sense. So that's the first superpower. The second superpower is love. Notice for women, we don't have a limit to how much and how many people we can love. And again, if I look at sort of like how we're designed, like a woman can have, 6 kids and she loves them fully. Like each one of those kids, it's, they're loved infinitely. And then she will love her partner and all of the other kids and nature. And like, it just like, it looks like our heart just like has no limits. And I find that for women, yes, we want to be loved, but it feels like there is this gift in each one of us to give love. And I honestly believe that this is so. Now, again, notice the narrative that we live in. Oh, women get too attached, women are too needy, right? All of that, which is basically telling us the way you love is wrong. You should love less. Now, the third superpower, and this is exactly when we come back to intimacy, is pleasure. That is actually a superpower. And we live in the world that says that men always think about sex and it's all about them. And, but actually, if you look at how our bodies are created, so our senses are more open. All of our senses are more open. We can see more, we can taste more, we can feel more. So we are very sensual by nature. Our skin is not as thick as male skin because we don't have as much testosterone, which means we're more sensitive to touch. Women can have multiple orgasms, right? And we don't even have to be touched to go into ecstatic like waves of pleasure. We can just, and there are like 11 different types, by the way. Okay. Men can have 3, women can have 11.
Nice.
So the point is that all of these things, as you can see, you can embody this regardless of how you choose to live, right? You can stay at home, but you can also pursue career and still embrace your intuition, your love, and your pleasure.
Oh, I love that. So I wrote that down. I was just writing a couple things that stood out to me because, first of all, intuition. Like I always tell people, I'm like, my gut will not steer me wrong. I'm like, I always listen to my like intuition, it always tells me the right thing to do. And I think you are so correct on a lot of levels when you think about, say, from the standpoint of I'm just using my relationship as, having a spouse that's a male and thinking about when you said, oh, you're supposed to live life this logical way. It's so funny because when you said that, I was like, oh my God, like I hear that all the time in my house where my husband's like, no, but like if you just realistically look at it from like logic, it's going to tell you to do A, B, and C. And I'm sitting here looking at him going, well, I'm not going to do that because that's not the feeling I have in my gut. My gut is telling me that I need to do this thing. And it's so interesting the differences in, between a male and a female and how we think and how we move about life, and then to follow up too on love, like it is so spot on. Like women, we have so much love in our hearts and we can extend it to so many people and no one feels left out. No, everyone feels included, but a lot of, like you said, a lot of, men, and we're not picking on you fellas, like we're not
Oh no,
picking
I
on
love men. I
you.
love men.
We're just we're just talking. We're two girls talking right now. But you're correct in the sense of like, oh, you like, I mean, I hear it in my own house. Like, oh, I mean, gosh, like you're just getting emotional about that. Why are you like getting so emotional about this? And I'm like, mm, the one thing I always tell you is that if you live in a home or in a space with a man, you are going to probably hear that. And I think like it's so important to just continue where you can to educate. So
Mm.
like that is what I continue to do with my husband. I mean, we've been married almost 20 years and I have continued to like just educate him because when I think about, and not to go down a path here, but I think it's important. Like one thing that I've learned the longer we've been together, and also from me being in therapy myself, is just to think about giving that person grace and thinking about how they were raised. Because I think a lot of times when you start on a path and you're embracing certain things, that other person, it may be new to them because like this is not what they saw. This is not what they were taught. And I think like the longer I've been like in a relationship, and especially when you think about being intimate and being deep, having deep conversations with someone, because that's intimacy, as you were mentioning before, like that when we're having those deep conversations, I'm having to take a step back and realize like, oh, this space is not comfortable for him because from what I see from being around his family dynamic, oh, they didn't talk like that. It was very much like, oh, you say this thing, it's like it just teeters on the surface and it's not getting deep. So then it's uncomfortable when so I would just say, like, we as women, just remember, like, I think that superpower also, too, as a part of that is like being able to like extend some grace, especially because we have these superpowers. And if you, from what Magda said, think about like many of the people we're dealing with may not. So if you're in a heterosexual relationship, your partner may not understand and they can't extend or so you're just kind of have to educate. So I wrote that down. And then Magda, you talked about pleasure. So I mean, when you said it, I was like, what are these 11 ways? What are the 11 orgasms that women have?
Look, I'll add to this one thing. One of like big shifts for me, and that I try to introduce
Mhm,
to people is the just broaden your definition of sex. And in fact, I use the word sexuality more because
mhm,
there's so much more that goes into this that's not just an intercourse. And I
mhm.
think most people live their lives in a very masculine way, like these are my goals, very logical. And then we jump into an intercourse. And especially for a woman, it's just really, that's not how we operate.
Right.
But everything in between, it's magical, and women need this. And to a degree, we can get it from our male partner.
Mhm,
Um, I'll say to a degree because they don't necessarily need it the way we do. It's still a great experience for them, but maybe it's not the same desire. But as women, we can simply live a bit of a different life. Like even so I did a little kind of experiment years ago. And think, for example, when you take a shower. Like, I
mhm.
don't know about you, but in most cases, I just, wash myself really fast, like rub my shampoo and everything in my hair. And then, I take the towel and I just rub myself dry. And then I'm like, wait. And I just kind of played with this. Imagine that a really sexy guy is looking at me while I'm taking a shower. And just notice how you suddenly would be taking this shower.
Yeah.
Right. But it's this like I think it's a great practice because
Mhm,
now something so mundane and ordinary like a shower or drying yourself with a towel can become a beautiful sensual experience.
mhm,
When you eat, if you like I'm still learning to not multitask. This is something that my father like basically planted this idea in my head when I was young. He kept telling me, don't waste time. Like I still hear his voice. So unfortunately, I'm still trying to like, reframe this and not
Mhm,
multitask. But the
mhm,
place where I practice mostly is the food. When I eat, I
mhm.
just sit on this sofa behind me and I just
Yeah.
eat. I close my computer and I try to be fully present with food.
Okay.
So this is also what I mean by pleasure. It goes way beyond just the
Mhm,
bedroom.
mhm,
It's like how I feel my body. Like I can look at myself and just like, just even like now touch my hair, touch my arms, right? And
mhm,
actually feel how beautiful, like the sensations of they're incredible. So I
mhm,
think for women, it's really important to um, live in an environment that gently stimulates our senses. And I say
mhm.
gently because if you go in any downtown, like you're just going to be bombarded. That's not what I mean. I do mean gently in a pleasant way, but listening to some nice music, maybe singing a little bit,
Mhm,
really enjoying the food, going for massages, like all of it is just like, it's really
mhm,
important for us. So it's like
mhm,
we can really invite way more pleasure to our life that
mhm.
doesn't have to be specifically sexual.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that because I absolutely agree. And I love that. And first of all, let me just tell you, shower is my favorite thing to do. Like when you when you said Monday, I was like, girl, I'm in the shower for like 30 minutes because it's like a place where I can think. It's a place where like I get to like dream. And it becomes like not just in my, like you said, not just in my house. And I'm just like, oh, I love this. I love my shower. It's the best time. But I think what you said about all those other things, right? And thinking about like just and being touching, like touching your hair or like touching your skin or getting massages. And I think you are so right because those things are so important because when you think about um the sexual side of a relationship, yeah, like men don't really need that, they're just like they're like they see you and they're like, let's do it. And
I'm
then
ready.
but what I've realized as I've gotten older is that like I don't want no, I'm like, mm-mm, like no, don't come at me like that. And when I was younger, because it was a lot of lusty when you were young. When I was younger, it'd be
Yeah.
like, let's do it, let's do it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and now it's like, no, no, you can't just take me to bed like this. No. And
Yeah.
I think like those other things that you talked about that allow for us, like music, reading, like getting, it's almost like you're foreplaying yourself. And
Absolutely.
you're like you're doing the foreplay in all these different ways before you get there. And so I think that's been a learning. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. I'm so excited about this. But I'm so glad that like, I mean, because I think a lot of times we think that, and I'm saying we, but I'm saying I, everyone, but you know what I mean. A lot of times you do think that that person is responsible for getting you in the mood, getting you there, getting you ready. When in reality, it's like when you think about it from a man's perspective, well, you just said he doesn't need all those things to be ready to go. And we do because it is a more emotional experience. It's not just about, I mean, most time you're not just like, oh yeah, let's have sex and be. For women, a lot of times it is like, oh, I love this person. And I want to just make sure that I'm in my best place to and go in and like have this experience with him. And so I
Absolutely.
this is super helpful for me because I think a lot of times because I'm gonna give an example. So like yesterday, I was in the kitchen and I was in the kitchen and I was not thinking my husband just comes up and he's like, oh, come on, let's go. And I was like, um, no, I mean you just walked up, you didn't say hello. You didn't ask me how my day was. I mean, it's like, no, I no. But it's just, I think, like thinking about all these other things, thinking about some of the everyday activities that we may do as a means to pleasure. I'm going to take that as a personal like challenge to try myself because I think like then maybe if I had really been thinking about like some of the things that I do throughout the day, like I've been listening to music throughout the day, I've been reading some books, and just thinking about like when I got to that place and he got there, to me and said, maybe then if my mind's, had been in a more like relaxed state and I could like draw to the activities of the day, then maybe it would have been a little easier for me to say, oh yeah, let's. But instead I was like a little rigid
Yeah.
because I was like, no, no, because I was like, you didn't do anything to like you didn't do anything, get me ready. So I'm gonna take that as an action item.
So I love this, and it's such a great example, right? And then men are like, "Well, what's the problem?"
Exactly.
Uh,
That was the exact comment. I mean, what's up?
yeah. So I think with this one, there is actually a metaphor that I use,
Uh-huh.
which I really love. And if you take a pot of water and you want to boil it,
Hmm.
imagine the water is cold. So you put it on your stove, you turn on the fire, you turn on the heat, and you have to wait. You have to wait for the water to heat up. Now,
Hmm.
once it starts boiling, that's our
Yeah.
orgasm, right? That's like our full
Right.
pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what men expect is that I'm gonna put this pot on my stove, and within 3 minutes it's gonna boil, and that's not what happens.
Yeah.
But here's what would help.
Okay.
If you had a pot of warm water, or even better, like slightly simmering, then yeah,
Hmm.
it can boil in 3 minutes.
Hmm.
And so for women, it's really important to keep ourselves in the state of gentle simmering throughout the day, just because we don't shift so fast. And this has to be a co-creation. So I liked what you said. We can't just like expect our partner to do everything, but they still need to understand that you need a bit more to get ready.
Hmm.
So it's really good to have this conversation with our
Hmm.
partner and say what we need, etc., what you like. So I think it's both. And I always tell men when I work with men, by the way, I do predominantly work with heterosexual couples. So for anyone else, like I'm sure you guys are able to like modify it to yourself if that's not fully relevant. But the
Hmm.
idea is for men is I always tell them, like, send your woman messages throughout the day. If that
Hmm.
means you need to set a timer in your phone, just do it. Doesn't matter. But reach out to her throughout the day and like plant the seeds of intimacy and pleasure for her,
Hmm.
so that when you both are home, she's available. So,
Hmm.
you can send like a soft, loving message, or you can get naughty. You can send nudes, whatever is the vibe in the relationship. And then the
Right.
same for women. Like we got to make sure that, look, it's not possible to always be in that state of pleasure, right? Like when you're doing the
Hmm.
dishes, you're just doing the dishes. Like,
Hmm.
let's also like kind of just be humans, and let's not overdo it. But let's say I look at my day and I can just reflect, okay, how many moments of pleasure have I had
Hmm.
today? Right.
Hmm.
And it's just about balancing this. So it's not just me always rushing, like make sure that I take some pauses to
Hmm.
be in my body. And this way I keep myself warm or a little simmering
Yes.
so that I'm available. But I add one more thing for your situation. It does help for a man to know not to make these kind of moves that because you're like angry and contracted. You're like, dude, like, can you not
Yeah.
read me at all? But something that may happen in situations like this, like if he really wants to be intimate with you and maybe you're not in the mood, let's say you like the shower, right? So
Hmm.
maybe a shower or a bathtub or whatever. And a woman always has like space to say, okay, wait, let me first take a bath or take a shower,
Hmm.
give me 15 minutes, and I'll try to get myself in the body, and then we
Hmm.
can make love. And you can
Hmm.
also say, I'll try, and let's see if it works, because maybe I'm busy and I'm not in the mood, right? But
Yeah.
it's also good to know what are some of the things that do help us be in the body
Hmm.
and pause and be more in the present moment, that it's kind of like having some strategies, right, to be ready.
Hmm.
So I think that's also kind of, this may be helpful to have like a little list of things that work for you.
Yes, I like that. I wrote down gentle simmer. I would know that like I'm gonna take a lot of things away from this conversation, but gentle simmer is always probably gonna come to mind when I see my husband. I'm like, I gotta get to a gentle simmer. I love that. Okay, so I know. So, are those ways that you would say? So, I wanted to talk about like women just feeling more connected to our bodies. Is that gentle simmer like a way that we, feel more connected to our bodies?
All right. You can't feel pleasure unless you're in the body. Because if you think
Mhm.
about it, and you know this, right? We all know this, ladies. We experience world through senses.
Mhm.
Senses are physical, right? All of the senses are in your physical body. So unless you're in the body to feel it, you're not going to feel anything. So it
Mhm.
is exactly how we come back into the body. It's
Mhm.
exactly this. And this is why I talk so much about pleasure that's not sexual, because
Mhm.
sexuality, of course, it connects to a lot of trauma, a lot of insecurity and shame. There's so much there, so much there.
Mhm.
And most women really need like deep healing. They need to be held. We need to release those stories, which is not easy because again, we live in times that are still not safe for women, you know. So
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
so it can be triggering, absolutely. So
Yeah.
it's much easier for us to open and reconnect to the body through senses in other situations. Exactly, like
Mhm.
taking a bath or taking a shower and just
Mhm.
like focus on the element of touch. When you eat, focus on the flavor, right? The taste.
Mhm.
And so this is not going to trigger us. It's not going to activate our wounds and make us want to shut down or disconnect from the body even more. So this is a great way, like a
Mhm.
beautiful, safe, great way for us to practice to land more in the state of feeling ourselves.
Mhm. I love that. So I know, so you talked a little bit earlier about, women, career women, women who have careers, professionals, everyone who obviously has like things that they do every day that are busy. So how can we, a couple of questions, 'cause let me just give you two. So as we're talking about that, one is how can we get things done right without losing that feminine radiance? And then the second thing is this world that we live in, are women too masculine?
Okay, two powerful questions. Okay. Let me go into the first one first. So, how can we get things done without losing the femininity? So, I'll start by saying that sometimes it's totally appropriate to be in a masculine.
Mhm,
like,
mhm,
like, 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 these are two different energies that help us deal with stuff. And feminine naturally moves with a slower pace. And sometimes we do need to rush, right? So sometimes you gotta
mhm.
like, okay, just get it, be very focused and get things done. So it's also okay. I just want to say it's also okay. I am a way bigger fan of balancing these energies rather than replacing one with the other. So
Mhm,
how can we kind of achieve things in a more feminine way? So most, like I said, it's slowing down. And here is kind of a crazy thing. So like I told you, I'm still working on not multitasking.
mhm,
The crazy thing is that whether I multitask or not, it doesn't really seem to change how many things I accomplish in a day. And I was recently reading a book. I don't remember the name. I'm so sorry. I'm really bad at this. But the story goes like this: that the guy gives a story of how he would normally do this little route on his bicycle, and he would go really, really fast, and it would take him about 44 minutes to do this, right?
mhm,
And one day he decided, you know what, I'm just gonna go a bit slower because I wanna look around. Like I wanna see what's there, on this route. So he does it in a more relaxed state. And out of curiosity, he checks his time, 45 minutes.
mhm.
So basically, pushing so much was giving him one extra minute.
Mhm, mhm,
And this is something, again, that I am looking at because I definitely need it myself. But that rushing and pushing, it's an illusion that we think that we get more done.
mhm,
And if we can slow down and do one thing at a time, so the body is more relaxed, we're not tensing, we're not contracting, we're in the state of, safety, relaxation, and more pleasure, you're gonna feel more productive. You're gonna feel like you accomplished more. And you will. I mean, whether I really rush or I don't, I hardly ever finish all of my to-do list, right? It's like, it's not like me rushing and multitasking suddenly makes magic. It doesn't. So I
Right.
think I think that first step is to just slow down a little bit.
Mhm,
Um, the second thing is when we work really fast and really hard, we definitely stay in the head. So I think it's good to take pauses. And exactly like you were saying before, check with your intuition. Just close your eyes for a moment and be like, okay, do I want to be doing? Is this the right way to do it? Just break the pattern simply by closing your eyes. And that's like 10 seconds. Okay. So it really doesn't impact much, of your productivity in the whole day. And then the third thing I would say is celebrate yourself. So I won't lie, it's also something that I'm still learning. It's just, when I was a kid, it was a rather unfamiliar concept to truly celebrate myself.
Mhm.
So I'm still learning. There are different things, different ways when I feel it and some other ways when I don't. But one of a great ways is to simply just play a nice song and dance,
Mhm.
right? Or like, just like tell yourself nice things and like, I'm so proud of you. I try to stay away from celebrating myself through spending money
Mhm.
because I feel like that's not really the point. Like, just like I don't like, giving kids gifts because I don't want to like kind of teach kids that, oh, it's all about material
Mhm.
things. So I
Mhm.
also don't want to teach myself that like that I get it like a material reward because I was
Right.
good. That's not the thing. It's more about the feeling. But I'm
Mhm.
still kind of looking for my ways how to celebrate myself. But dancing is definitely one great thing. And this can even be like, in your case, if you love the shower, maybe like at the end of the day when you're like, okay, now I'm done with work and I'm going to celebrate everything I've done by now taking a shower. And that may be a ritual to, wind down with your husband and just enjoy each other.
Mhm. I love it. I like that. And Magda, I love these because like you said, these are things we know, but it's just oftentimes we forget or we get so busy. And I like that you focused on talking about multitasking because I am a multitasker. And for some reason, growing up, right, in life and in business and that world, we have been told that like it's a good thing. Oh, you can multitask, that's fantastic. But it's so limiting at the same time because I realize like like I'm a workingpreneur, so I have a full-time job. And I will notice sometimes like I am literally going and doing like five things at one time. And I will catch myself where I'm like doing this, and then the message will ping. I'll answer a message, an email will pop up. I'll answer an email, and then I'll go back to the thing that I was working on. Then I was like, then my brain will go, oh, but what about so and so? And then I go here and do this other thing, and I'm like, let's stop rewarding ourselves because we can our minds can go to that many places, but like, are we doing anything good? Like you said, like, are we accomplishing anything? Because like the amount of time that like I spent going between those five things, but not really completing like one thing. And then that's like maybe an hour or 2 hours later when I've gone just like this between all those things, like you're still in the same place. And so, yes, like telling yourself to like, you know what? I'm going to turn the notifications off for a few hours, not going to check the email. I'm going to work on this one thing. Like the days that I do that, I find that like it's more fulfilling because like I actually
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, like you actually get through the thing, but then there's what's disheartening is to get, like I start work around 7:30 and to get to lunchtime, get to noon, and I'm like, well, what have I done? Oh, I've done a lot of like jumping from
Doing,
yeah.
yes. Yeah, recently I was rereading Atomic Habits, and one of the
Mm,
things that like really stayed with me was exactly what you said. So I'm so glad like you brought it up. I'm fully with you on this one. He says there is a difference between doing something and getting something done. And
mhm,
when I like, it's something we know, but sometimes
mhm,
when you hear it from this person or from this book, it just lands differently. It's like I've heard it multiple times, but this time it hit.
yeah.
So when I thought of this, I was like, gosh, there's so many things that I do, but not many things that I get done. Right. And I think this is such a reality check because we know how it works. Being busy, gives us dopamine rushes. And it's so good to just wait. I'm like, wait, 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 wait. So like I'm not actually accomplishing much. So maybe I
Mhm,
need to revisit it, right? So I
mhm.
love that you said this. I'm so with you on this one.
I know. I mean, but I think just, unfortunately, we've just been programmed to think that, you have to look like you're busy. You have to be able to multitask and you're not really getting anything, you're not getting anything done. So,
Yeah.
okay.
So you
So
had that second question, huh?
yeah, so the second question is
Are
about
women too
women to
masculine?
masculine.
Look, I'll be honest with you. I think this is a very complex question.
Hmm.
So I'll try to give you a few thoughts on this, okay?
Okay.
Quickly, yes. But I think, life is not black and white.
Exactly.
Life is all about the grays in between, right? And it's about nuances that we seem to totally be missing these days. We want to make everything black and white, but it's not. So there's a couple of things here that are really important. First of all, the truth is that men are not as much in their masculine. Now, this is not to say, oh, men need to step up and men are bad and this and that. There is, again, more nuance there. But we have, as our society, we have eliminated the archetype of a warrior. So the warrior is the energy of the fire. This is also passion. This is our ability to set goals, being disciplined and focused and committed. That's
Hmm.
leadership, charisma, etc. Now, just notice on a physical level that we have eliminated fire from our lives. We used to cook with fire. Now we have electrical cookers, right? Because it's safer. You cannot just have a bonfire. You need a permit. You cannot have a fireplace at home anymore because again, it's dangerous and because of the pollution. We used to use candles for light. Now we have, as you can see, even in my place, electrical bulbs. So fire, when it's contained, it keeps us warm and it gives us light. Like there's a lot of benefits of fire,
Hmm.
but when it's not contained, it can destroy. And so we have seen the negative sides of fire, and we just decided to remove the fire instead of teaching people how to manage fire. And so fire, it's not just the physical fire, it's the energy,
Hmm.
right? So men don't have space to practice the inner animal where they can actually still be the hunter, where they can
Hmm.
be this animal, this dark lover energy, right? The
Hmm.
killer. This is in every man, and they do not have spaces to explore this energy anymore. It just like dies. And as women, we feel it. We feel it. We need this. And so which we basically bring it up in ourselves because we're not getting it externally from men.
Hmm.
Now, for men, it's also a bigger conversation. We no longer have the rite of passage. The elders are not what it used to be. Like, I don't know in your life, but like, also with technology, the elders don't actually hold a position of wisdom anymore.
Hmm.
Also, a lot of men were killed during the First and the Second War. A lot of men were raised just by mothers. And
Hmm.
so we lost also the archetype of what it means to be a strong, healthy, masculine
Hmm.
man. And you had like whole generations of boys being raised without that example. And
Hmm.
so women are reacting to this by stepping into into
Hmm.
our masculine. Now, the second thing that is happening, and this is like a whole change of gender roles and why so many women are single. I am single right now, and this is literally the consequence of that, and why men struggle so much is the fact that we had that separation of roles. And of course, these were gender roles, but they were
Hmm.
actually using feminine and masculine qualities.
Hmm.
It's not the same, but if you think about it, a woman's role was about nurturing, right? And taking
Hmm.
care. And so what started happening is that our world, was valuing male contribution to society, but it didn't
Hmm.
value like our
Hmm.
female contribution as much. And so women, like naturally, if you think of this, we're like, wait, my job as a housekeeper and a mother, it's a 24/7 job.
Hmm.
He doesn't do 24/7 job and he gets better rewards for what he's doing. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be the sucker here. I'm going to do what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so women naturally started stepping more into the masculine energy. Why? Because our world rewards that.
Hmm.
Why would I stay in my feminine if the world thinks that it's a weakness? Like, it's like, oh, you think it's worthless? Like my nurturing, again, intuition, love, and pleasure. Oh, you're telling me it's worthless? Then why would I do this?
Right.
Instead of loving deeply, I'm just going to go and forget about my heart and chase my goals, and be like any other guy.
Hmm.
So it's a complex dynamic why that happens,
Hmm. Yeah.
Then another layer is that if we don't feel safe, again, we're
Hmm.
going to step into the masculine to protect ourselves. And
Hmm.
again, the world we live in is still not very safe for women.
Hmm.
So it's such a complex
Hmm.
conversation.
Hmm.
And when I just hear like, oh, women are too masculine, they need to be more feminine, but it's same for men. If you say, oh, men are not masculine enough, I'm like, this is not black and white. This is
Right.
complex. You
Hmm.
cannot push anyone. Like we have to understand where it's coming from and
Hmm.
address the root cause. And unfortunately, I don't see enough of this.
Right. No, no, I agree with you. And thank you so much for your insights there because I agree with you. Like it's not black or white. Like it's gray. Like you have to be able to understand, like you said, the nuances. And I'm a person who I can live in the gray like all day. It's never like black or white. I'm like,
Yeah.
nope. Because you gotta, yeah, think about the other things. Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, Magda, this has been a fantastic conversation. Why don't you tell people listening or watching how they could work with you and how they can connect to you?
Well, so first of all, I wanted to say thank you so much for offering the space to talk about this. I'm always very, very grateful because these conversations are not very popular. Also, all the algorithms don't really love these conversations. So many people avoid this. So thank you also for having the courage to speak about this. So if anyone would like to connect with me more, you can just search for Magda Kay. My website is magdakay.com. My Instagram is Magda Kay Official. Someone took Magda Kay, damn you, damn you, damn you. So it's like Magda Kay Official. But my YouTube is Magda Kay, and I am mostly active on YouTube and then Instagram. But I would love if you want to get to know me more, like sign up on my newsletter from my website. I share different things through different channels. Like I just
Okay.
feel like a different part of me comes through all of them. So just pick whatever works best for you. And when it comes to working together, so I have the School of Intimacy, which is this whole community membership area for people who want to learn skills and also just get knowledge about intimacy and relationships and our sexuality. Because, modern education system just stubbornly chooses to ignore this very important area of our life. So I always invite people to check it out. We have 15-day free trial, so you can just log in, see if you like it, and if you want to stay, it's fully up to you. But it is definitely my intention to help people look at their intimate life as any other area. Like we want to get better at business, we want to get better with our health. Let's get better in our intimate life and relationships. So absolutely, the School of Intimacy would be my recommendation. I do also work with people one-on-one. You can find all the information on my website for this as well.
Awesome. I love that. All right. So now we're going to slide into three things with Magda. I'm going to ask you three questions that just helps our audience get to know you a little bit better. So the first one is a two-parter. It's how do you start and end the day?
I'll first start with the ending of the day because this is easier. I
Mhm.
don't do anything to end the day. This is something I don't know why. I just haven't been able to set any nice routine for like ever. I think reason why is that when I still have energy, I want to be doing things. And
Mhm.
then by the time I'm like, oh, I no longer have energy to do things, then I also don't have energy to do my evening routine, and I just go and I sleep. So I've just I don't know, I just keep failing at this one. So I have literally zero things like to end the day. When it comes to starting the day, I don't have one thing, it shifts.
Mhm.
I am a morning person, which means I like to maybe either start my day by working right away or by going to the gym.
Mhm.
I don't love starting my day with meditation or a deeper spiritual practice because like my hormones like get me ready. Like, I wake up when it's now like summertime, I wake up at like 6 a.m. or 5 a.m.
Mhm.
So then I'm ready to go like 7, that's my peak. When the day is a bit shorter, like usually 8 a.m. is my peak. So if I now do like half an hour meditation, then I'm actually slowing myself down for the whole day. So I realized I prefer actually starting the day with more important activities just because my energy is there. But like I said, it will differ. So right now, for example, I gave myself this little journaling exercise that I want to do every morning. Occasionally, I give myself these, they're called tapas, which are kind of like spiritual challenges. So maybe I'll do this like 30-minute meditation every day for 30 days. So it differs. I would say it differs. I don't have one thing that I stick to.
Okay. I like that. I like it.
That's
All right.
way too long answer for
No,
the question.
no, I love that. I mean, I love to ask this question because I think it's important that it just shows that, successful people do things in different ways. And no two people do the same thing, have the same morning or the same evening. And I do like what you said. I really appreciate that you said in the evening, I'll do anything because once my energy is gone, I've done all the things, then I go to bed. And I think that's fair because it doesn't mean like every night I don't journal gratitude or, I do just I thank God for like another day. But then some days I'm like, well, now I'm going to get in bed and watch TV and then I'm going to go to sleep. So I appreciate that. Okay. Number two, what's a goal or an intention you've set for yourself this year?
And again, you think it's a simple question, right? So my challenge here is that, and this is a bit of like, I think a bigger question for how do we do life?
Mm-hmm.
Because we can be setting goals and going for those goals, or we can
Mm-hmm.
be open and allowing life to direct us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as every human, I'm kind of trying to balance this. So more than a goal, I have a vision, and there
Okay.
are a few different goals within this vision. So, for example, one of these goals would be to do public speaking, to be
Mm-hmm.
on TV, to be on TEDx. I've had like crazy stories with them. Like, I don't know, there's some bad karma, I think, with TEDx in my case. Motocross. I had, for example, a goal to do some acting and like actually be in movies and TV. But in the end, for example, again, I just put it aside because actually I end up doing more motocross or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I have like a set of different goals that build my vision.
Yeah.
And then within that, I'm more flexible. So I don't have like one goal or intention. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to launch my certification program. I decided to move it to next year, right? So
Okay.
again, there seems to be a bit of like fluidity and
It's
flexibility
free
when
flowing, Magda.
exactly. Yes, yes,
That's right. Well, but the important thing is that there's a vision, right? And you've
yes,
got
yes, yes,
you've got
yes.
a vision and goals that ladder up to that, which I think is important. I have that too. Like I've got a thing, and then I've got several things that ladder up. And guess what? At times it may be that, oh, well, I wanted to do this year, but I'm going to do it next year. And the thing also that I heard that is really important, and I like to tell this community is that give yourself grace. And
Mm-hmm.
it was so nice and refreshing, like hearing you be able to say that without being like, well, I know I said I was gonna, but no, you just said I was gonna launch the certification this year, but I decided to push it to next year. And I love that you didn't give any excuses or reasons why, because you didn't need to. And I like that.
Thank you.
We free flowing over here, Magda. And the third question is, where are you currently finding inspiration?
I love reading. Like I'm so mental.
Mhm.
You know how people say like, oh, you're overthinking, like get out of your head, get into the
Mhm.
body, right? And I was just like, oh, I think too much. But then I thought about this. I just love thinking. It's
Mhm.
a source of pleasure. And so when I read things, I don't even read things necessarily to like implement this. So I literally look at studying and reading
Mhm.
things as like a fun activity, just like you would do painting.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
right now I am reading the book called Time Paradox by Zimbardo. So for anyone who knows anything about social psychology, so there was a famous experiment where he took students and split them into prison guards and prisoners, and he was observing the dynamic between them. So he basically, it's one of the world's most famous, if not the most famous, social experiment. And so
Mhm.
this is the guy. This is the psychologist, and the book talks about our perception of time. And I find it fascinating because
Mm-hmm.
it adds this whole different level to how we move through life. And of course, it's something I'm also taking to my work when it comes to relationships and pleasure, understanding, oh my God, this makes so much sense. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely reading for me, like consuming content, this is
Mm-hmm.
really the main source of inspiration for me.
Awesome. I love it. All right. Well, I have one more question before I let you go. What are three things you would like for the audience to take away from our conversation today?
Well, the three things are intuition, love, and pleasure.
Boom. Awesome. Well, Magda, thank you so much again for coming and taking time to share with the community. I have loved this conversation. I've got a lot of notes and takeaways myself. And I think, like you mentioned earlier, it is a conversation that a lot of people may feel sometimes shame about, approaching or, oh, I don't know. But I think we're all human and we all have these experiences. And I mean, it may not be your experience today, but who knows, it could be your experience tomorrow or month or 2 years from now. And it's just important to have the resources and the tools to be able to get through.
Yes, fully agree.
Well, thank you again. Best of luck. You can always come back and share with us in the future.
Well, very gladly. And yes, thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation as well. Thank you for all the sharing, of your from your personal life as well. That definitely takes some courage and vulnerability.
Thank you. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.